You're listening to WICR, Iona College Radio.
All right, folks, welcome back for our third segment of the day of The Rock is On. I'm The Rock, and we just finished talking about the locals with the Jets and the Giants, and we're going to move on to other NFL headlines or other NFL teams that I thought were worthy of talking about this week. And my next team I'm going to talk about is the Tennessee Titans. And before I get into them, I just want to ask you people, I just want to ask you guys something. Can the Tennessee Titans be a playoff team this year? And if you ask me, and if you watch this team play the last few weeks, and you ask me, I think possibly yeah, because you got to look at it from this way. They play in probably the worst division in football, and probably the worst division in the last decade. In all fairness, and that is the AFC South. And plus, the AFC South, you want to know, the AFC South is just terrible. Even when Peyton Manning was the quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, and they were winning 12 plus games every year. And it's like all the other teams, like the Texans, the Jaguars, the Titans, were always like falling behind and always winning like 6, 7 games at best. So it's like you always have that one team in the AFC South running away with the division. Or you would have, and then there was one, actually, there was some years where, you had Jacksonville make it as a wild card or Tennessee. But for the most part, the AFC South has been pretty lousy over the last decade and a half. Or it's like you know, you have like these 8, 9 win, or a team that wins 8, 9 games wins the division, like the Texans last year. But if you ask me, I think the Tennessee Titans, they have a legit shot of making the playoffs this year. It's not going to be I don't think it's going to be as a wild card because the way it's shaped up in the AFC, you have the two AFC West teams in the Raiders and the Broncos leading the way. I think they're 7-2 or 7-3, something like that. If I last time I checked, but I know they're definitely leading the wild card spots. I think Miami is second with is in the seventh seed at 5-4. So I think it will be a little difficult for them to make it as a wild card, but they have a strong chance at the division. Here's why: the Houston Texans are 6-3. When you think 6-3, hey, you know what? They're a good. That's a good solid football team, right? The Texans, granted, they showed some strides. They show some shades where, hey, they look like a Super Bowl team, and then there's some times where they just look like a lousy, inconsistent football team. Brock Osweiler, the quarterback, the big the free agent quarterback, the big accusation they had in the offseason. He only has 11 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. He's looked lost at times. He's been frustrated. And the Texans only have one road win, and that came against the Jaguars last week. So, and the Titans, they're turning into a juggernaut. They scored 47 points against the Packers. Now, granted, last week against the Packers. Now, granted, it's the Packers have been abysmal, have been awful on defense this whole year, but still, 47 points. You can't look away from that. Also, you have what's been a key success for the Tennessee Titans. Actually, there's been two key reasons why the Tennessee Titans have been playing well, and that's from their star quarterback in Marcus Mariota, who has 21 touchdown passes as of now, has 21 touchdown passes, only 8 interceptions, and has thrown for 2,482 yards. And the free agent running back, or excuse me, the running back, the star running back they acquired via trade from the Philadelphia Eagles in DeMarco Murray, and the reemergence, I should say, of DeMarco Murray. And if you watched him play this year, he looks like his 2014 self when he was his last year with the Dallas Cowboys. He was an elusive runner, finding the holes, finding the gaps, jump moves, cut moves. He did it all for the Cowboys in his final year, and he's doing it all this year for the Titans, and he's proven to be a major asset for them. Because as of now, he has 930 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns, and he's averaging about 93 rushing yards a game, just a shade below 100, and he's currently the second leading rusher behind Ezekiel Elliott, who has only 75 rushing yards or more rushing yards than him. So that's been a key asset. Those have been the 2 key assets for the Tennessee Titans. Marcus Mariota progressing from year 1 to year 2, and the reemergence of DeMarco Murray. And also, I'll throw in one more thing. I think this Tennessee Titans defense has been playing pretty well the last few weeks. Now, granted, they may not have a lot of big names, though, but they have a very underrated front 7, and it's a good front 7, and they're led by veteran linebackers like Wesley Woodyard and Brian Arakpo. And they have a famous defensive coordinator by the name of Dick LeBeau leading the way with that defense. Dick LeBeau has been around since the 1960s, 1970s, so he's an old school kind of coach, but he knows what he's doing, and he's helping this Tennessee Titans team well on defense. But, like I said, the progression of Marcus Mariota from year 1 to year 2, and he's not turning the ball over as much, because there were some times last year, if you watched him play, he was turning the ball over. He was putting up gaudy numbers, but he had a lot of turnovers too. He's cut down on the turnovers this year, and you have the reemergence of DeMarco Murray. I just like saying that, reemergence of DeMarco Murray, and he's in the consideration of the NFL Comeback Player of the Year. And if you look, and the Titans, and you gotta look, before I compare schedules between Houston and Tennessee, I just want to say, even if the Titans don't make the playoffs this year, or whether they finish 7-9 or 8-8, they're making progress, and they're a team on the rise. And I would not be surprised if next year or the year after, the Titans are in the playoffs, because they have their franchise quarterback, and they have 2 good running backs, because they have Xavier Henry, who was the Heisman Trophy winner from Alabama last year, and DeMarco Murray, who, like I said, is a major asset for this team this year, or the team's success this year. But believe me, the Tennessee Titans are on the rise, folks. They are going to be good in the coming years. But with that being said, let's jump into the schedules. I'm going to start off with the Titans, though. They're going to be, the next few weeks, they're going to be at the Colts, at the Bears. Then they have their bye week in week 13, which is pretty odd because all the teams are playing Thanksgiving, and then it's just them and the Browns that have a bye week in week 13. Then week 14, they're home against the Broncos, at the Chiefs, at the Jaguars, and then home against the Texans. And if you look, I'd say, let's see, they can win it. I'd say definitely they can win 3 of these games, but they can win if they get lucky. I wouldn't say lucky, but if they can pull out at least, say, 4 or 5 of these victories, they can probably win the division, if you ask me. Depending on what Houston does. Because for the Texans, they're at the Raiders on Monday night. That game's going to be in Mexico City. Home against the Chargers, then back-to-back road games at the Packers, in Lambeau Field, at the Colts, home against the Jaguars, home against the Bengals, and then they finish it off at the Titans. So who knows? Maybe that Week 17 game could be for the AFC South Division. It may not be an appealing matchup because the AFC South has been dreadful, and all those 4 teams, for the most part, haven't been that good in years past. The Colts had some good years with Andrew Luck, and definitely with Peyton Manning, but the AFC South is the worst division in football. If you were to take a survey and ask any football fan what's the worst division in football, majority, if not all, would say the AFC South. But for the Tennessee Titans, though, it should be interesting to see how these next few weeks play out, and who knows, maybe the Titans can make it into the playoffs as a 4th seed, and could possibly make some noise. And that concludes this segment.